Welcome, guys. This is GT the Vibe Podcast coming at you with another episode of the series called When God Turns You Over to Your Sin. Speaking about a reprobate mind, essentially, I think people think that God's grace is just going to be forever and you just do whatever you want to and yada, yada, yada. Some of the things I've heard in church is once saved, always saved. Um, there's so many things in doctrine that are a problem because we don't see the implications of telling people these things. And so I'm going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about a reprobate mind, essentially is going to be the core of what we're going to speak about. I'm going to give you 8 distinct qualities of a reprobate mind, and then I'm going to give you 5 cures. And we're going to kind of talk about my experience. I was there. A lot of times, guys, what you'll realize about me is I talk about things that I've been through personally myself. So understanding that Romans 1:28 uh, is going to be the verse that really sets the tone for these next couple of installments in this chapter of my life here. Furthermore, just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to depraved minds, so that they do what ought not to be done. They have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, God haters, insolent, arrogant, boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. They have no understanding, no fidelity, no love, no mercy. Although they know God's righteous decree that those who do such things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. And that's a part I didn't read that part when I was kind of starting the first installment of the sermon. The approval of those that practice these things. They approve of these actions. They approve of people lying. They approve of people cheating. They approve of people stealing. They approve of people doing these things because in their mind it's okay. Because if I'm not, if I'm personally not um, okay with it, right? I don't have the power to be able to be around these type of people. And so what happens is, and as I go through kind of the mindset, the steps, the characteristics of somebody who is in that depraved mind, that reprobate mind state, where God turns you over to your sin, you'll see why they approve of those practices. They approve of those who practice them. So you ever have a Christian that is very, very Christian, very, very devout, follows Jesus, yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden they start hanging around people that don't make a bunch of sense. Say you got a Christian who is deep, deep spiritually, and then they start hanging around with people that cheat or people that steal or people that lie, right? People that deceive. They start hanging around these people because they're reprobate mind. They are literally have gone to the other side and God has handed them over. Once they start making decisions like that, you know God's handed them over, right? And so Romans 1:28 is literally speaking of the mindset, the characteristics, and the approval. So mindset, characteristics, and approval is what is being spoken of here. And so I'm going to give you guys the first clue, the first characteristic of somebody who is struggling with the reprobate mind. Spiritual complacency, a state of being okay and failing to recognize the offenses that you do are against God. So whenever I sin against my brother, my sister, my spouse, my whoever, significant other, whoever it may be, that is a sin directly against God. So when I lie or deceive or keep secrets or whatever it may be, I am sinning against God. And I think that we as Christians, when we get into the space of spiritual complacency, we don't realize that that all sins are against God. We think logically, oh man, all sins are only against humans. No, 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 no. When you sin is direct rebellion against God. If you know the truth and you still sin, you're in rebellion against God. And until we see it that way, it's kind of hard for us to make the necessary changes. And so when you get into spiritual complacency and this mindset, we fail to realize our sins are against God. Yes, we logically sin against humans, but those sins are also against God. So turn to Psalms 51:4. I'm gonna pull it up on my phone because it's a little bit easier to just find the verse on my phone. Um, it's going to be David speaking, a declaration of sin and a confession of guilt to God, stating, against you, you only have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight. So you are right in your verdict and justified when you judge. So David is saying that against you I've sinned. Yes, my sin, I lied to this person. Yes, I may have cheated on this person. Yes, I may have battered this person. Yes, I may have deceived my significant other. But against you, God, you, you I have sinned and done what is evil in your sight. So not only is it evil in our sight, we know the difference between good and evil because Adam and Eve ate the apple. So we have that discernment. But what is evil in God's eyes? So he's literally saying that it doesn't matter what evil is in my eyes, it matters what evil is in God's eyes. And so I turn this over to you, God, because I know that you see these actions that I did as evil. And then when you get a reprobate mind, that is not the mindset that you have. And as I go through the other characteristics, I should be able to get through 5 in this series and this particular podcast today. As I go through them, you'll start to see the mindset of a person who God has turned over to the willful sin. And how do you get to a reprobate mind? Some may ask. Willful sin. Willful sin. I also think that you get there by pain, unforgiveness. When you don't forgive somebody for what they've done against you, like it's a hatred that ends up in your heart that can change, right? Your values can change your morals. And so therefore now because of hate and envy and strife and anger, now you can't even really fully be seeking first God's kingdom and his righteousness. Now you're seeking first your emotions. Your emotions have become the forefront of your journey in life, not Jesus Christ. And when your emotions become the forefront of your journey in life, this is what will happen to you. So we're talking about spiritual complacency, just literally being okay with sin. My personal story, I was okay with sin. Sinning against loved ones, sinning against friends, sinning against, and you know how many people I lost in that time frame of living in sin, in the reprobate mind, in the mindset that God literally turned me over to the sin that I was in. And he allowed the sin to destroy the person I was so that way I could become the person I'm supposed to be. And that's part of the cure. But we'll talk about that in a later episode. I don't want to go dive into that yet because that's a whole different ball game. But that's what he does. And so what you have to understand is that when you're living in sin for so long that you end up so far away from God, literally you're walking in the opposite direction. And people do this and don't realize, like, I was going to church the whole time. I was still going to church, although I was a reprobate mind, right? I was going to church. Yeah, so in 2 Timothy's chapter 4, I believe, it speaks about, you know, always learning but never coming to a knowledge, like always learning. So I was going to church and I was being fed, but I never came to a knowledge of God. Never came to a knowledge of God. And a lot of Christians, and when we're speaking here, um, in Romans, it's crazy because this is written to the church. These are people that are Christians that are getting turned over to their willful, sinful life. It's not talking about, oh, the atheists are getting turned over, or the Buddhists are getting turned over, or whatever, the Muslims, the Hindu, whatever it may be. It's not talking about those people. These are God's own people. These are Christians that go to church every day. You can literally go to church every day and have a reprobate mind. Why people in this reprobate state go to church every day is because they want to keep up an image. It's a false image, essentially. Looking good without being good, right? That's what they do. So spiritual complacency is number one, the first thing that you'll see, spiritual complacency. The number two, the second thing you'll see, perceiving spiritual challenges as enemies. So when someone attempts to guide you towards God, you see them as an adversary. When you get to the point where you see spiritual leaders, spiritual people, because you never know who's going to bring you that word, right? And when people bring you the word and you mad, you're angry, right? Or you're watching somebody's spiritual growth and it makes you mad, that's because you see the spiritual growth and challenges in life as adversarial. What you feel essentially becomes your God. These people get so involved in their own feelings that that becomes their God. Their feelings become their God. Their idolatry is in their feelings. Their feelings trump everything. It does not say seek first what you feel. It says seek first God and his kingdom and his righteousness. And so when you're thinking about perceiving that, thinking about, man, I'm seeking first his righteousness, righteousness only comes from God. And you're going to see as we get to number 4 where righteousness comes into play here. So these people literally don't want to be helped. Or if you attempt to help them, it causes anger inside of them. The spiritually immature, right? That's what happens. Third thing, this is huge. I'm going to talk about this for a little bit. Measuring by others' failures. So we're going to turn to Matthew 7:2. Let's again, Matthew 7:2. Matthew 7:2. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to them. So you are judging others, and but you're going to be judged by that same standard. And here's what happens when you're when you're in cahoots with somebody that may have a reprobate mind. You may be in a relationship with them. You may be a friend, and maybe a family member. It could be an acquaintance. It could be a boss at work. This is what it could be a pastor at a church. That's what they do. That's what they do. My sin wasn't as bad as your sin. So I'm okay. I'm good. My sin wasn't that bad. Like you did this thing over here, right? You murdered. I just lied. So you know what? Hey, I'm good. Like I'm straight. God doesn't see sin the way that we see sin. Sin is direct rebellion against God's authority. So even though that person murdered somebody and you lied, you both still rebelled against God's authority. And so these people, what they'll do is they'll justify their sin by compartmentalizing it as, well, my sin's not as bad, or I didn't do this as bad, or this wasn't as bad as this, right? And so they compare sin. And so in a relationship, what this looks like is you messed up, so they will use what you messed up, and that will justify them doing things. Also, they're willfully sinning, right? They're willfully sinning. Well, I'm good. I'm good to lie. I'm good to deceive. I'm good to do whatever it is. And but what they don't understand is that in Romans 14:12, which we're going to turn to that real quick. Let's turn to Romans 14:12. Like I know the verse, but I don't want to quote it wrong. So then each of us will give an account of himself to God. It does not say that you're going to go up there and be like, well, my best friend lied, and then I just did something behind their back, so I'm good. They lied. No, it's going to be you did something behind their back, and God's going to ask you why you did that. And when you start to open your mouth up to say, well, because this isn't as bad as what he did, or I did this in retaliation, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Retaliation, whatever it may be for your reasoning to do sin or to willfully sin, is on you. You give your account of yourself to God. You don't give an account of Larry. You don't give an account of John. You don't give an account of David or whoever it may be. When you stand before God, he's going to ask you about you. He's not going to ask you about every single other person out there. That is your job to give an account of what you've done individually. And this is huge. This is big. This is huge. You'll give your own account. You won't stand before him and be able to say, I didn't do as bad as such and such. I didn't do as bad as them. So God, you're going to have some mercy on me. I'm good, right? No, you're not. You rebelled just like they rebelled. And what happens is, well, again, people compartmentalize sin and they think, well, there's good sin and bad sin. No, 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 no. All sin is rebellion against God. It don't matter if you think it's big or small. God doesn't see sin like we see sin. He does not. He does not. And so that's the problem. That's the battle that we have when you get into a reprobate mind. I was there. I was already like, man, well, if this person did this, well, I'm gonna do this to get back at them, right? So they sinned against me. So for me, I got to get my get back, I get my lick back, right? That is literally measuring by other people's sins. Our standards are not by other people. Our standards are given to us from God. God is the measure of everything. When you realize that God's the measure for everything, oh, the life will become so much more easier. And when I was doing these things, God reminded me, He slapped me upside the head and said, dude, you're going to come by yourself. When that day and time comes, Gary, you will be standing before me by yourself. You can't blame anybody else for the things that you've done because you have to answer to everything that you've done. And when you realize that there's no excuse for sin, there's no justification for sin. I've had Christians try to justify lying. Well, if you're lying to protect yourself, and I'm like, they're never. At the end, the truth will set you free. You don't lie to protect yourself. You don't do that. And the crazy thing is, that's the evil within them, telling them you're lying to essentially protect yourself. And then you realize that there's nothing to protect yourself against but yourself. That's the reprobate mind. That's what it does to you. It's literally like a little evil Satan demon in your head telling you, justifying your actions. Oh, well, you could do it. Well, you can go talk to that. Hey, man, you can go talk to that girl because you know your woman don't talk to you at home. So go ahead and go talk to her. It's her fault. She didn't talk to you, so you can go talk to that girl, right? Or you can look at those pictures online because your spouse doesn't look good for you whenever you want it to, right? So you can just go look at those pictures online, right? And so it's their fault, right? Oh, it was her. Well, she didn't do what she's supposed to do, so I went to go look at these pictures. But when God asks you, He's going to ask you why you looked at the pictures. Give me the reason why you did that. He's not going to say, well, what did your spouse do to make you look at the picture? He's not going to ask that question. God ain't going to ask you that. It's going to be your actions literally laid out in front of you. Fourth thing, self-righteousness. Romans 10:3. Romans 10:3. Let's turn to Romans 10:3. I bet I typed in the wrong thing. Sorry, guys. Romans 10:3. Some people failed to submit to God's righteousness because they were ignorant of it and sought to establish their own righteousness. When you understand that all righteousness comes from God, let me tell you, it will change your life, guys. It will 100% change your life. All righteousness comes from God. What happens when you're in the reprobate mind, though, you become self-righteous. You become blind to your own personal shortcomings. So now you're the perfect person. You're the epitome of righteousness, right? Grandiose, boastful, all those arrogance, pride. There's a lot of those. Those are the words when you use when you think of self-righteousness that you can use. Pride. A self-righteous person is a prideful person. A self-righteous person is arrogant, right? Very, 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 very arrogant. Conceited, all about themselves, put themselves first, think they're the gold standard. Those are things that come to mind when you think, man, they've established their own righteousness. So they're idolizing themselves. They're literally idolizing themselves. As we turn to Philippians 3, verse 4 through 9, Paul's writing here. Let me see. I thought I had it pulled up. I apologize, guys. NIV version. So Paul's writing here, speaks on self-righteousness. Though I myself have reasons for such confidence. If someone else thinks they have reasons to put confidence in the flesh, I have more. Circumcised on the 8th day, of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews. Literally boasting himself up here, boasting it up. In regard to the law, a Pharisee. And you can just think when somebody's saying this, it's literally just act like they're punking somebody, essentially. As for zeal, persecuting the church. As for righteousness, based on the law, faultless. But whatever were gains to me, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ. What is more, I consider everything a loss because the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. I consider them garbage that I may gain Christ. So Paul's saying, I lost it all. I thought I was big. I thought I was big stuff. Self-righteous, I'm big stuff. Hey, I'm big. Hey, I'm big stuff. Talking himself up. Do you not know who I am? That's what it is. That's the mindset that they have, right? When you get in this mindset, that's who I was. I was like that in a damn police uniform, guys. Let me tell you. That boasts that even up even more than just the normal battle that you have here. Do you know who I am? Got a badge on too. And even during this time frame, when I spoke to citizens, it was harder for me to have conversations with people than what it was before I got to the reprobate mindset, before I got turned over to my sin. I couldn't even have I could talk to a homeless person all day, every day. Conversation with humility. I had no humility. Like there was zero humility there. That's the mindset. It was literally, who do you like? Do you know who I am? When you think about self-worth, do you know who I am? But the thing is, I gave up and lost all that stuff for me to gain Christ. And let me tell you, no amount of money, no amount of power, no amount of anything can replace what you will find in Jesus Christ. Man, when I get to the cure for these things and I talk about what cured me, what got me to the other side, guys, it's going to be emotional because I'm going to tell you guys personal things about me that are going to make you realize, dude, like this dude's for real. Like this really happened to me because this really did happen to me. Within the past 5 years, this really happened to me. God stripped away the things that were causing me to be prideful, that were causing me to be self-righteous, that were causing me to be spiritually complacent, right? That were causing me to look at other people or look down on other people. Well, my sin isn't as bad as your sin. And number five, the fifth thing that it did, let me tell you, itchy ears syndrome is what they call it. Itchy ears syndrome. Going to church like, man, this message is great. It's for me. Prosperity preaching. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. God's going to give you this. God's going to give you that. Not conviction teaching, not conviction sermons. So we're going to turn to Second Timothy real quick, and I'm going to read this verse. Timothy 4:3. For the time will come when people will not tolerate sound doctrine. It's crazy. When you get to a reprobate mind, you believe a lie. Essentially, you believe lies. Lies have more power in your heart and brain than the truth does. You're essentially turning your back on the truth, turning your back on God, because if you turn your back on the truth, you turn your back on God. That's what you're doing. So only hearing what makes you feel good. Oh, I gotta feel good, so that's it, Or another sign of itchy ear syndrome is only listening to who you like. Therefore, you can only get God's word from people that you like. Does that even sound correct to you guys? Who do you think everybody liked Paul? Oh man, Paul's is the greatest person. No, people hated Paul. But you know what? He was a great teacher. So they listened to him and took instruction from him. He sent instructions throughout the Bible to churches all around the world. Do you not think that the churches knew who Saul was? Yes, they know. They read the books. They read about who Saul was, a murderer of Christians. Saul was the ultimate level of, man, what itchy ears can do for you. Do you know how many Christians probably didn't listen to Paul because of his past? Oh, well, you know what, man? Hey, you was persecuted, so I don't even want to hear what you got to say. As if God don't have the power to change somebody. As if God don't have the power to talk to you through your enemies. Let me tell you something, guys. Let me hit you with a little special bulletin real quick. God will speak to you through your enemies. If you think that he won't, my friends, that's a problem. Because I promise you, God will. God will have conversations with you through your enemies. He will teach you what you need to hear through your enemies. And y'all be butthurt about it. If you're butthurt, if somebody is speaking the gospel to you and you're butthurt, God is trying to get you to see something. Trying to get you, if you're convicted. Some people just got, well, I like the pastor at my church, so I'm going to go to my church and I'll listen to the pastor, whatever you say. The pastor may not be giving you what God trying to get you. That homeless person on the street may be the one that God sent to give you that message. So what if you can't? What if you're just so arrogant that you ain't gonna take it? Oh, I don't like this person. Or even worse, what if it's your spouse? What if it's the person that you live with that knows you better? Because the pastor don't know what you do. You could be a sinner of all sinners outside of church. Guess who knows you best? The person that you're in a relationship with. So what if God sent the person that you're in a relationship with to tell you the truth? And the only people that you take truth from are people that go to your church. How do you think you're going to grow spiritually? Part of the reprobate mind. That's one of the symptoms of the reprobate mind. A person will not take truth from people who actually know them and the truth. Not people that just know the truth, but people that know you and the truth. So they know what truth that you need inside your life to help you grow. But you won't take it. I'm mad at you, so I'm not gonna take it. Or I respect my pastor more. So if he doesn't say it, then I can't follow it. I can't do anything about it. Right? That's the mindset that people have, and it's crazy to me that people can get that far gone and be okay with it. Oh, pastor said. Oh, pastor said. If you got a wife and your wife says you ain't bearing no spiritual fruit, my friends, it hurts to hear it, but you better take heed. God trying to tell you something, and then you go out and see God, and then eventually you'll bear those spiritual fruits, as she said. If you got a husband that's like, hey man, I'm being real with you now. Your values and morals are changing. Your values and morals are changing. They're changing. So you hanging around this and that and the other. What people don't understand about men. Now let me just give you a little caveat. Let me get a little 2 minute little bender for you guys. What people don't understand about men is that we observe threats. Like that's what we do. We observe threats. So if there's a threat to you as a person and your husband said, hey, you got a friend and your friend ain't doing what probably should be done, they'll influence you and then you'll become like them. And then you like, well, nah, I like my friend too much. So, and then you choose to follow your friend, you will follow your friend straight down to hell. They're going to take you with them, right? Because if you're following and being influenced by people who do things that aren't of God, that aren't righteous, right? You're hanging around people that are not righteous. You can't, you can't, that's just not smart. I myself, during this time frame, was hanging around people that weren't righteous. So why do you think I was doing unrighteous things? Oh man, you can tell a lot about a person by the company they keep. Easily influenced. Easily influenced. So those are the 5 things. Now I'm gonna give you one of the cures right here. I'm gonna give you one of the cures, and I will go back to this cure later on. One of the cures is God Himself. So as He turns you over to your sin, things in your life start to get haywire. Things jacking up, you're losing, you're taking losses. The devil starts sifting. He's sifting. And what is he sifting for? To see how much faith you have. And what God will do is he'll strip away everything that caused you to be in a reprobate mind. He'll take your job. He'll take your relationship. He'll take your family. He'll take your kids. If you don't think that God will take, then I don't know what God you think that you serve. Some of y'all out here just literally serving baby Jesus as it. You think God is just baby Jesus and he's just this and that. I'm like, bro, God will not. God ain't playing. Some of y'all think God playing. That's what I honestly I think some of y'all think God playing. That's what I think. It's my mindset. I think that some of y'all really think God is literally playing, and I assure you that He's not. I can assure you, He's not. God is many things: graceful, loving, just alpha, omega, just magnificent, just literally the pillar of righteousness. It's crazy. The symbol of empathy. When I think about empathy, I think about man, God went to the flesh, sent His Son down here in the flesh to experience what we experience, and then to give Himself for us. That's empathy. He is a model of love that is unwavering, unconditional, and always, literally always. And so when you think about it, if He strips away things from you, He does it out of love. That's what you needed to be stripped away anyway. He stripped away so much stuff from me that I was wondering when I was going to stop having things stripped away from me. Like it got to a point where I was like, dude, He's going to strip everything. Like I'm not going to have nothing left. And you know what? If He would have taken me to a place of me having nothing left, guess what? I would count it all as a win so that I may gain Christ. Literally what Paul said. Man, let me go back to Philippians 3 That verse literally explains what I am trying to convey. Though I myself have reasons for such confidence, if someone else thinks they have reasons to put confidence in the flesh, I thought I did. I'm Big G. I'm a cop. I'm this and that. I have more. Circumcised on the eighth day of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews. He's literally like, do you not know who I am? In regards to the law, a Pharisee. Hopefully, y'all know what the Pharisees are. As for zeal, persecuting the church. As for righteousness, based on the law, faultless. Man, I ain't got no fault, man. Do you see who I am? To make y'all flinch for a second. But whatever were gains to me, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ. So everything I gained in that season I consider a loss for the sake of Christ. What is more, I consider everything I lost a loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. I consider them garbage that I may gain Christ. How many of us are actually willing to give up what it takes to walk that walk? That's what my shirt says. Got the Nike shoe on it. Are you willing to give up what it takes to walk the walk? Or if you're called, which obviously God has called me for something, um, He could have taken me out many a times. He could have abandoned me many a times. The stuff I was doing, He could have abandoned me plenty of times, but He never did. So obviously there's a calling on my life. God loved me enough to say, you know what? I got enough love for Him. Let me turn him over to that. Let me turn him over to that so He can see. And literally, it took one day I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back at me. And then God started to strip it all away. One by one, piece by piece, I had no choice. No choice. The only thing I could do during that time frame was trust in Him. That's it. And what I learned is this. In loss, you will cling to God. While you're winning, it's harder to do. It's harder to do. While you're winning, it's easier to cling to your own values, your own skill set, your own knowledge, what you may think you know, right? It's easy to cling to that when you're winning. But God will cause loss because you need to understand who's in control. Who's in control. And so that was cure number one. God Himself turned me over and then stripped it all away. And one thing that I learned through that whole process is that anything that takes you away from God is not from God. Just because it seems like a blessing, don't mean it's not a lesson. That's a quote of the day. Quote of the day. Just because it seems like a blessing, don't mean it's not a lesson, guys. It could darn sure well be a lesson because God will strip it away from you. He will strip it away from you. Never allow, not even your feelings, anything in life to take God's place, guys. Never do it. As we learn these 5 keys, these 5 things that you'll see. And let me tell you something, if you're struggling with these things, reach out. Talk about it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's understanding that will help you be able to overcome the odds and get back to Jesus Christ. So don't be ashamed for the struggles that you've had as a person, because we all struggle. We all fall short. That's what we do. If we didn't, then Jesus wouldn't have had to come down here and die on the cross. Spiritual complacency. Perceiving spiritual challenges as enemies. Measuring by others' failures. Self-righteousness. And the itchy ears syndrome. And the cure for those ailments, for those sicknesses, for the disease of a depraved mind, the disease for a reprobate mind, or the cure for the disease of a reprobate mind is God. He'll take, he'll strip away, and then he'll give. And the thing is I'm in the process, just to give you guys a little insight before I get out of here. I'm on the other side of the strip. He done stripped away a lot. My life, my life in the next year is going to look so much different than it did 2024, 2023, 2022. It looks so much different. But you know what? I count it all as loss so that I may gain Christ. I count it all as loss so that I may gain Christ. Because at the end of the day, I've gotten so much closer to Jesus through these triumphs, through this turmoil, that he has literally become the centerpiece of my life. No human can take that place. Like it's people out here that can't even put Jesus over their parents. Their parents mean more to them than Jesus. There's people out here that can't put Jesus over their kids. Their kids mean more to them than Jesus. There's people that can't put Jesus over their spouse, right? Their spouse means more to them than Jesus. And there's people that can't. There's people that's in career paths, right? Career fields, whatever it may be, firefighter, electrician, doctor, whatever it may be. They can't even put Jesus over their career field. And let me tell you from experience, that's one of the first steps as you climb the ladder, as you climb the staircase to a reprobate mind, not putting God first. Oh, I don't have time, or I got to do this, or this is more important. Everything that you do while you're doing what it is that you do shows what's important in your life. It literally shows what's important in your life. Everything that you do. And so as you come into place, as you come into the authority of God, as you come into the righteousness of God, what you have to realize is that God is going to be the first and the foremost at the forefront. And if he's not at the forefront, if your career is at the forefront, he'll take your career from you. If your husband's at the forefront, he'll take your husband away from you. If your wife is at the forefront, he'll take your wife away from you. If your family is at the forefront, your family will be gone. That's just what it is. God is not in the season of playing. So don't play with him. Don't play with him. That's what I got for you guys, please. Thank you for very much for rocking with us. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share so we can get the message out. And understand that when God turns you over to sin, it doesn't mean it's the end. This is GT the Vibe Podcast. I'll see you guys on the next one.